But I want to ask a question before we start, which is, when we invest, because we all have money somewhere, what's important to us? These are the important things. Yes, I want to make a return. Probably we'd then say, what's the definition of a return? A definition of a return to me is what we need to be beating inflation. Would you agree? That's a starting point. Money in the bank and the building society is difficult because it's not beating inflation. So we need to beat inflation, otherwise we're going backwards. But we don't want to go and stick it on the horses or go and gamble it where we could lose it. So safety is important. So these are sort of key things. This is what I think is the most important one. I put it up there just to see if it was a clue for everyone. Understanding risk. I think that is vital. And I want to, when I talk, one of the things I like to do is try to make it what I call a sticky message. Most of what I talk about, you will forget about. Most of what I talk about, I forget about as well. Sometimes I need pictures to help me. But what I want to do is create an image in our mind that we won't forget the image. So pictures speak 1,000 words. So let me introduce you to two people. The person on the bottom of holding the whatever you call it, on the tightrope. Who's this guy? He's the fund manager. He's the person that we give our hard-earned, tax-paid money to invest, and we hope for the best. We've probably never met the fund manager. We probably have no idea of anything, whether they like football or rugby, whether they like beer or wine, whether they have children or don't have children, or where they live or anything. But we give our money to the fund manager, the person on the tightrope. Let me introduce you to the man on his shoulders. Who's the man on the shoulders of the man on the tightrope? The client. Us. And that's a worrying thing, because that's really what we do. Because we give the money to people that we've never met. We don't necessarily, if we know whether we trust, like, or respect them, but we gave them the money. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I'm just saying that's what happens. So then we jump on their shoulders and we don't know how good they are at being on the tightrope walker. And these are things that we need to know when we give our money to people. We need to know how good they are and what their values are. So the first thing is that we need to understand risk. But what is risk? Well, when we invest, the first thing is we have a maze and a blur of investment funds in front of us. Some big name companies, some small name companies, just a whole load of blurriness. There are over 6,000 different investment funds to choose from. The last count was about 6,600, so loads. And we're supposed to choose out of that bunch of what to do, but we're going to make it simple for us all. Out of all of those funds, there are 4 boxes that if we went and rounded them all up and put them somewhere, they live within 4 boxes, 4 asset classes. Equities, which are stocks and shares. That's box number 1. Box number 2 is cash, money in the bank or building society or post office, that sort of stuff. Box number 3 is known as fixed interest or gilts, which are generally government loans. And box number 4 is commercial property. So those are the 4 boxes that all of those funds, when rounded up, live in. They're just let loose at the moment. We have to organize it all. When we look at those 4 boxes, they all carry some or greater risk. Equities is the greatest risk. That's the stocks and the shares. So let's just pretend that we are medium risk investors. So if we're a medium risk investor, on a scale of 1 to 10, we're a 5. We would call it balanced. We have to create a portfolio for you that is going to be balanced. So the question is, what is the definition of a balanced portfolio? And the answer to it is a 50-50 mix. 50% of the money is in equities. They might be all over the world. We're not going to debate where they are, but they're in equities. And the other 50% is in cash, gilts, and property. Doesn't matter at this stage of how much is in each bit. It's just 50-50. That's all we need to sort of focus on. The seesaw on the side. Remember when we were all children, we'd rush down to the park and we'd all sort of clamber on either end of the seesaw to try to get it to balance. And once you've got your equal weight, it works. Just remember that. That's all we're trying to achieve. So the answer to the question of what is a medium risk investment is it should have a mix at this stage of 50-50. We can get deeper into it, but I'm just trying to sort of give us some basics at this stage. So this is our portfolio. So on the left-hand side, on the upside, is showing the percentage, which is how much money is in equities. So basically, this is sitting at 50%. So 50% in the market, 50% out of the market. But let's go and look at some big, well-known companies. Because I have a question, and the question is, if we all understand risk, do the fund managers, the tightrope walker, do they understand risk? Now we'd all think, yes, of course they do, Carl. But I'm going to show you I don't think they do. So first company we look at is a DFM stands for Discretionary Fund Manager. It's a company called Tatton. This is their balanced portfolio. Without getting into all the detail, all that's important is the answer is how much of the money is in equities. And the answer is 70.4%. Should be 50. But it's overprescribed in real terms by 20%. That means they're taking 20% more risk with our money than what they should be. So do they understand risk? Well, not to how we would view it. The answer would be no. Let's go and look at another big well-known company. This one's called Scottish Widows. Most of us have heard of Scottish Widows, seen the pretty girl on the front of the brochure, and we may say we're a medium risk investor. I like Scottish Widows. I like the girl on the front. I'm buying one of them, please. But if you bought this fund, the amount of money in equities is actually 74%. So again, we're now almost 25% more money invested in equities, which without getting into the complexities of percentages, it's almost 50% more risk that they're actually taking. Then we look at a well-known company, SJP, St. James Place. Many of you have probably heard of them. Wonderful company from a marketing point of view, but not necessarily from a risk point of view. So the St. James Place Balanced Managed Fund is running at 77% equity-based. Remember, the answer should be 50. This is an overprescription of the amount of equities which are taking place. And the last one, just to sort of show you, is a company called Baillie Gifford, and they're running at 84.4%. That's an awful lot of equities. Let's go back to the question. What was the question? The question was understanding risk. So why are these guys so off the chart in comparison to what we want as investors? And it's because we're not aligned. We might end up all trying to achieve the same thing. We're giving our money to them. We're hoping they're going to invest it, but their focus and our focus is different.